Welcome to yet another episode of Thrive Talks, and we have Sharmada Venkat here, sports nutritionist. We're just continuing our conversation from last time. Now we're going to talk about body image, perfectionism, and some sort of ideals that we ourselves have, and how it affects athletes as well. So, as part of the first question, wanted to check, how does perfectionism influence food choices? Does it influence food choices, first of all?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. And it ties in a lot with what we spoke about in the last episode about that sense of control.
Yeah.
Usually, again, people who have this ability to control what they eat, how they eat, tend to, and on top of that, if they're a perfectionist and if they want things to be an exact certain way, like the plate should look like this is how much protein they're supposed to have on the dot, it kind of blurs the lines between eating healthy to do other things with ease versus this being a source of
So fueling versus pressurizing.
yeah, this where food becomes a source of problems or this really like stressful situation for you, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that perfectionism you can see a lot with people who have these specific number targets, macro targets, or they want their body to look a certain way, they want their food plates to look a certain way. So even if something goes a little over and above, they get a little anxious and a little worked up.
Yeah. Although this is not the same as having certain goals for oneself, correct?
No.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. Again, there's a difference between having
How
a
they
goal, and being okay with
here and there missing out.
And that's just how it is. It's not a linear.
Correct.
No goal is linear. Be
Correct.
it food or your body goals or whatever it is. It's not a linear path.
Yeah.
And life happens. I feel like you should be okay with that
One
life
or two.
happening.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Like you can't avoid social gatherings or you can't be isolating yourself so that you achieve that goal.
Yeah.
It should be aligned with your lifestyle. It should be practical. It should be realistic, and you should be okay with the time frame that you've given yourself.
Yeah. So there is a thin line between both.
There is a difference, a big difference in fact.
Big difference, but in terms of habits, what do you think?
I think the lines blur when your goal becomes the only thing. Obsession,
Yeah.
right? Like you're so particular about the time frame, you're so particular about the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I understand in the context of sport,
because
you have a competition or you're cutting weight for a particular event.
And these numbers actually matter.
These numbers actually matter, right? Whether you qualify or not. I understand that aspect of it, and I think for them it becomes a part of their routine, right? It's just how it is. But for the rest of us, there's a very fine line between the two. You're right. There's a very fine line.
Yeah.
And it's easy to move
from
like
one place to another. Exactly. Especially if you're a perfectionist.
Yes.
Then it's very easy to move from this side to that side. Got it. How do societal and sports-specific body ideals actually affect athletes?
Again, I don't work with too many weight-specific sports or sports that require people to look a certain way. But in general, it's obviously understood that for many sports, you do need to have a specific amount of fat versus muscle for you to perform effectively. It's not about the looks here, but there are certain sports where the looks also come
Matter,
in,
yeah.
right? So it's a matter of, I think, as a professional, educating the athlete and not making it seem like that is the only goal that you have, right? So you have to, as a professional, give them that information where they also look at food as fuel. They also look at it as an opportunity to perform better versus actually using food as a means to aggressively lean out, aggressively be a certain way. So the language you use with a particular athlete matters.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Even as a mental health professional or a trainer or a coach or whatever it is, a language that you use around weight of an athlete matters a lot because it affects their psyche.
Absolutely.
And once that space is safe, then the targets become easier to achieve.
So this brings me to my next question. What happens psychologically when weight is specifically tied to one's worth?
Okay, so looking at this from a very broader lens, I haven't seen this with the athletes I work with. I have seen this more in the general population.
The recreational or the general.
Exactly. So you're looking at validation from an external perspective. It's not an internal motivation that's getting you to eat better. You're eating because you want to look a certain way. That's fine. But like we spoke about, the lines blur, right? So you start looking at food or healthful habits as good and bad. Like when you eat, let's say, a salad or something that's healthy, your mood changes. Your mood depends on that particular cue. So you're doing a particular thing the way you want to and you feel good about it.
It's more about choices there.
It's about the choices you make. So your mood depends on the choices that you make then and there. And it's very black and white. Right? So if by any chance, let's say there's a time where I'm not mindfully eating, I automatically feel upset, right? So again, your mood depends on that external cue. So you're looking at validation. Your entire validation comes from that external cue. It doesn't come from how you actually feel.
Correct.
Right? So I think that is where the problem is, and I see this in a lot of women. Your weight being tied to your worth.
I can imagine. I think there's also a lot of stereotypes, right? I think culturally there are a lot of narratives. If you're thin, again thin in quotes, no one actually knows what thin is in that sense. It's a thing that you're not looking womanly enough. If you're a little more overweight, then you're not fit enough, or you don't look a certain way, you're not attractive. I think that happens to athletes also at certain points, but in the recreational athletes, I feel like it's a lot more, like you said. So definitely, it makes a big difference. Yes. So tell me, like, when it comes to mental health and psychology, how do you think sports psychologists can collaborate better with sports nutritionists?
I think in any space, especially in the sports space or working with an athlete, that multidisciplinary approach is the only way that things will work, because none of us work in silos, right? Be it an SNC or a physio or a nutritionist or a sports psychologist, invariably all of our work overlaps, and it sort of has this cascading effect. Like if you train really hard, the recovery aspect the physio and the nutritionist will have to handle. And similarly, if they're feeling a certain way, it'll seep into their training. So it kind of overlaps. And I feel like between the two of our professions, screening the athlete and knowing when to pass them on to the next profession. Right? If I flag something as maybe concerning behavior with food, I'd slowly coax them into speaking to
a psychologist.
Same way, if a psychologist picks up certain things, maybe it's time to refer them to a nutritionist and tell them that this is the sort of like issue we're handling. So that collaboration is absolutely necessary.
So better communication with both the athlete and the professional.
Absolutely.
Got it. Superb. So, that I think that gave us a lot of insights in terms of perfectionism, mental health issues, and eating as well. The next episode is going to be a lot about injury and recovery and all of that, and how food impacts that. So, yes, thank you for joining us in this conversation.
Thank you.